Prime Minister, these floods started last week. Why has it taken you until today to hold a Cobra meeting?
Well, I went up to Matlock in Derbyshire, I think, on Friday, and the situation continues to be very concerning, very worrying, in the sense that 850 homes have had to be 850 homes have been flooded. About 3,000 people have been evacuated, and as I've seen for myself, anybody who goes to a flood will know you cannot underestimate the trauma of being flooded, and it is a very, very serious business. And so our sympathies are very much with the victims. But I also pay tribute to the work of the emergency services. I think they've done a very, very good job in the last 4 or 5 days. The situation, I would say, is getting slightly better. There are grounds for cautious optimism in the sense that the forecast today isn't perhaps as bad as it was yesterday, but we have to do absolutely everything we can to help the thousands of people who are affected, and so we're making sure that we have cash available for immediate support. Council's actually doing a very good job of providing immediate support. I saw that for myself up in Derbyshire. Insurance. There are schemes, as you know. There's the Bellwin money that's available for flood victims or victims of any disaster of this kind. So government steps in to support, and we'll be doing that for businesses, about £2,500 for businesses that are affected. And the one thing I would say, Carl, is that yes, things perhaps are stabilising. Derbyshire and Nottinghamshire are in recovery. Doncaster, the Don Valley, that's still worrying, but possibly getting a bit better. But the ground is so waterlogged across large parts of the country that we simply have to prepare for more floods this winter, and a huge amount of energy and effort is going into that right now. So where the army is needed to provide more sandbags, more aggregates, we're doing that. The Environment Agency is on hand to provide more flood defences, and we're doing that as well. And I think, although clearly it's an absolute tragedy for people who've seen such damage to their homes and indeed to their livestock, the Environment Agency hasn't done too bad a job in protecting thousands and thousands of homes that might otherwise have been damaged. But there can be absolutely no cause for complacency in the weeks ahead. The
people who've had their homes flooded won't be thinking that, and many of them feel forgotten. They say they feel forgotten by the government here in London. What's your message to them?
Well, I want to thank all the local authorities who've worked very hard, and clearly the government has at all levels has been coordinating a response, whether it's with the insurers or with local councils, with the fire brigade, with the police. As I say, I was up there about 4 or 5 days ago, and will continue to go there. I think the worry for me is really that there are some people who are continuing not to listen to the advice of the emergency services, Carl. So I would just say to people, the emergency services do have sound advice. When they advise you to evacuate, you should do so.
Your political opponents say that funding for flood defences has been skewed towards the southeast, and that if this had been happening in Surrey instead of the north of England, there would have been a national emergency been on. Are you taking it seriously enough?
Well, there's a huge amount committed. I think 2.6 billion has been committed by this government to flood defences. And as I say, I think, look, I'm not going to minimise the impact on anybody who has suffered damage to their home from flooding. But I really do pay tribute to the work of the emergency services, the police, the fire brigade, everybody who's been involved, and and also the Environment Agency. And I just think we have to recognise that the ground is now waterlogged across large parts of the country, and it's not just in Nottinghamshire and Derbyshire and South Yorkshire, which may be getting a bit of a temporary respite, though we can't be sure. In the next few weeks and months, the rainfall could cause flooding in many parts of the country, and we simply have to be prepared. And we are certainly putting the resources into it. And since you've raised politics and the political situation that we're in, it's only by having a robust government and a robust economy that's able to finance fantastic infrastructure that you're able actually to invest in long-term funding for flood defences as well as infrastructure, to say nothing of spending on the NHS and everything else. So since you raise a political point, Carl, I must respond in that way.
The question is whether the flood money is going to the right places.
Yes.
Your opponents say it's skewed towards the southeast, and not enough is going to the areas that have been affected this time.
Of course, that's the flood defences are. The whole country is protected. I don't know where that idea comes from. We're coordinating a national defence and programme of flood defences. There's been 2.6 billion of national investment, and the Environment Agency is there to ensure that cash is spent on the right defences, the right earthworks, the right earth banks, and everything else that we're going to need. It's not just this winter that we're going to face this crisis. We have to face the fact that in the long term we will need to invest in significant flood defences across the whole country, and that's why we've already put aside 2.6 billion. That's why we think it's right that this is the moment when a strong government with a strong economy behind it should be investing in infrastructure for the long term and to protect our people from future floods. But at the moment, I have to say, I think emergency services, local authorities, Environment Agency have been working flat out to deliver an adequate response. I know there will be people who feel that isn't good enough. I know there will be people who are worrying about the damage to their homes, who will be worried about their insurance situation, worried about the losses that they face. All I want to say to those people is that there are schemes to cover those losses. We do ensure that people will have protections against flood, and those are certainly being activated now.
Were there any particular decisions on that taken at Cobra today?
Well, I think that one of the decisions that we've generally taken is that we should make sure that we interpret the insurance scheme so as to be as flexible as possible and to recognise the particular circumstances that people face. And I think there was also a request for a little bit more help from the military in getting sandbags and other defences to some of the areas. But again, the key thing is that that people affected by flooding, when they get advice from the emergency services, that they do adhere to that advice. And I think that we may be lucky this week. On the other hand, there may be another downfall, and we downpour, and we have to prepare.
Thank you, Prime Minister.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.